In Hollywood, as in business, great minds think alike. I always wanted to have a fragrance, screen legend Elizabeth Taylor told Kim Kardashian for Harper's Bazaar in 2011. And I always wanted to be able to connect with people in ways other than through film. When Taylor launched her first perfume in 1987, she didn't just fulfill a lifelong dream. Who doesn't like a good kaiju film? There's just something satisfying about giant monsters beating the crap out of each other, destroying buildings and cities, while humans frantically scramble to survive the threat. And there's no fuller franchise when it comes to these oversized menaces than Godzilla. Godzilla films have been around for over 65 years, totaling an impressive 36 installments. She also paved the way for the modern celebrity brand Bonanza. Though Taylor was the first famous face to build a business empire based on herself as the muse, she certainly wasn't the last. The majority of them aren't grand by the cinematic standards of today, but that's not really what we look for in a Godzilla movie, anyway. From kitchen appliances and shapewear to lip kits and lots of signature scents, if you're in the market for something new, odds are you'll be able to find a celebrity-branded version of what you're looking for. Today, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry and, according to Forbes, maybe the future of retail. Ready to shop? Here's a look at the most successful celebrity brands. Kim Kardashian's Skims is a booming business. Kim Kardashian fangirled out when she interviewed Elizabeth Taylor for Harper's Bazaar in 2011. "You are my idol," she told Taylor. "We want the rubber suit and miniature scale model of Tokyo. I am a huge Elizabeth Taylor nerd." In addition to the gems and iconic looks, Kardashian seems to have drawn business inspiration from the legendary star and fragrance pioneer. From fragrances and forays into beauty and fashion with her famous siblings, Kardashian has become a reality star turned global business magnate with KKW Beauty and Skims. "We want the dubbing and silly humor intertwined with odd storylines. We watch these movies not for the quality of their special effects but for the fun and nostalgia of an expressionless rubber mask rising from the sea." Of course, there's no argument that some movies in the franchise are better than others. Launched in 2019 after a delay in renaming due to concerns of cultural appropriation, Skims came about because Kardashian wanted shapewear that would allow me to wear amazing fashion pieces comfortably, she told Nordstrom to celebrate its debut in their stores. To the hugely popular line of uniquely cut shapewear pieces in a range of shades, the brand added loungewear separates in luxe fabrics and tapped into the work-from-home market stemming from the coronavirus pandemic. So, grab your popcorn, dust off the old VCR, and read on to see which of these B-movie delights are most worth your time. Here's every Godzilla movie ranked from worst to best. Number 34. Godzilla, 1998. Let's start with the worst of the worst. Godzilla. Not the original but the heaping mess of CGI that somehow made it into theaters in 1998. This movie tried really hard to do some cool stuff with story and modern special effects that didn't pay off. The Godzilla creature is barely seen as it hides among buildings in New York. In the spring of 2021, Kardashian announced, via the New York Times, the valuation of Skims, $1.6 billion. With KKW Beauty undergoing a rebrand, after she sold a minority stake in it to Coty, Kardashian is keeping her entrepreneurial eye focused on what her fans want, as she shared on Twitter in 2019. "What's made it possible for me after all of these years has been the direct line of communication with my fans and the public. Kylie Cosmetics made Kylie Jenner a billionaire. Or did it? Growing up on Keeping Up with the Kardashians gave Kylie Jenner a lot of fans and a lot of reach, and she leveraged both into a wildly successful business. Through social media, Kylie capitalized on the interest her fans had in her overly lined lips. In 2015, at age 17, she launched Kylie Cosmetics with a first batch of 15,000 lip kits. Somehow, nobody could find a giant lizard the height of a skyscraper. Speaking of which, how was this skyscraper-sized Godzilla able to squeeze through subway tunnels? The film's only saving grace was Matthew Broderick, but even his acting and his collection of giant worms couldn't save this movie from being a complete blunder. Per The Hollywood Reporter, inventory sold out in less than an hour, crashing the website, and a new celebrity empire was born. Kylie's interest in all things beauty runs deeper. In the first episode of Inside Kylie Cosmetics on YouTube in 2021, she shared, "I've loved makeup for as long as I can remember. Kendall Jenner was riding horses, and I was, like, practicing my makeup at home. The amazing connection afforded by social media hasn't been lost on the beauty mogul, or the industry. In 2019, Forbes declared Kylie Jenner the youngest self-made billionaire ever, thanks in part to her selling a majority stake in the business to Coty. To make things unique, the movie makes Godzilla capable of asexual reproduction, and ready to lay eggs. It shakes things up. The magazine later walked back their estimate, to $900 million, citing inflated numbers coming from the Kardashian-Jenner camp. Whether a billionaire or just a multi-millionaire, Kylie Jenner is continuing to expand her cosmetics line and other ventures. Kylie Skin launched in 2019, and in the third episode of her 2021 YouTube series, with baby Stormi toddling around, she teased her latest genius idea, Kylie Baby. George Clooney and Randy Gerber started Casamigos to avoid hangovers. A night out drinking with a friend might not produce a billion-dollar idea for everyone, but it did for George Clooney and Randy Gerber. On a trip to Mexico, the longtime friends were imbibing one night when, according to Gerber, the nightlife entrepreneur and husband of Cindy Crawford, Clooney had a lightbulb moment. The movie also uses nuclear testing as the root of Godzilla's creation, staying mildly in line with the franchise's tendency toward social commentary. But it failed to give us a real look at the monster behind the action and lacked the drawing-in factor you'd expect from a Godzilla movie. Number 33. The Netflix anime trilogy. They tried. You can tell they did. But Netflix didn't quite pull off the Godzilla we expected when they put out their run of animated movies. We would drink a lot of tequila, Gerber told Business Insider in 2017. George turned to me and said, "Why don't we create one that's perfect for us?" We wanted one. We could drink all day long and not be hungover in the morning. In the summer of 2017, the company announced they sold for $1 billion. The sale made the Oscar winner the highest-paid actor of 2018, according to Forbes, despite not appearing in a movie that year. Talking about the windfall to CNBC in 2017, Clooney joked, "If you asked us 4 years ago if we had a billion-dollar company, I don't think we would have said yes." Godzilla. Planet of the Monsters, Godzilla. City on the Edge of Battle, and Godzilla. The Planet Eater released through 2017 and 2018 thanks to Netflix capitalizing on yet another already established franchise. We'll still be very much a part of Casamigos. And, while these movies aren't as outrageously out of place in the Godzilla universe as the 1998 film, they're like a weak cup of tea compared to both other Godzilla movies and other Netflix extended universes. Starting with A Shot Tonight. The movies try desperately to compensate for their lack of compelling story with mostly great animation. Maybe too. Gerber and Clooney got the name, Casamigos, Spanish for, House of Friends, from the name of the property they were staying at that fateful night. When promoting the brand, the two keep it just as friendly and fun, like they did in a 2018 Instagram photo timed for Halloween that Crawford shared. Her husband and Clooney are pilots, and she's the sexy flight attendant welcoming fans aboard Casamigos Air. Iman's beauty line was the first to offer shades to match all skin tones. Necessity being the mother of invention was certainly true for legendary supermodel Iman. The drama isn't there because the characters aren't very likable, making it difficult to emotionally invest in the story. This series gives a look at a post-apocalyptic future Earth where humans have traveled into space to escape Godzilla and other monsters' continuous destruction. The very first makeup artist on my first shoot did not have any foundation for my skin tone, she told Harper's Bazaar in March 2021. The theme is there and had the potential to be something awesome, had the character drama been compelling and the pace been faster than a slug on hot concrete. Number 32. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, 2000. Godzilla vs. I had to make my own. This led her to launch Iman Cosmetics in the early 90s. Per the company's site, it was the first cosmetics and skincare collection designed for all women with skin of color. For Iman, the venture was more about reflecting the diversity of the world than becoming a beauty industry pioneer. "I had a vision, which was a new way of looking at beauty," she told Harper's in January 2021. Megaguirus was another attempt at creativity within the Godzilla universe that came out lukewarm at best. The film starts out slow, and the monsters are, well, I wanted to create a new language, which was multicultural, rather than about an ethnic background. In 2007, Iman debuted a clothing and accessories line with HSN that became one of its top sellers. They're akin to a swarm of annoying flies Godzilla swats around. That is until the end of the movie, when they make the Queen big, powerful, and badass. Then, there's a decent fight scene, but that's about it. The plot was mediocre at best, and it did something crazy enough to push most fans away from good reviews. It reworked this millennium-era Godzilla into its own original while somehow managing to stay disconnected from every film that came before it. And as of 2010, per the New York Times, Iman Cosmetics was a $25 million a year business. Among her biggest fans was her late husband, the equally legendary David Bowie. If you don't know, this is pretty blasphemous. The music icon never missed any of her beauty launches, she told Harper's in March 2021. Whenever I would say, "Oh, what if this fails?" about Iman Cosmetics, he would say, "And so what?" she recalled. He would always be the first person to congratulate me. Size inclusivity and knowing her market are key to the success of Jessica Simpson style. Every person needs to feel included. Jessica Simpson told CBS Sunday Morning in 2017 about her hugely successful brand. Each Godzilla died for a reason. If I make a shirt, I'm gonna make sure every size is available. Because I have been every size, trust me. Jessica Simpson Style, which includes clothing, accessories, shoes, and fragrances, was launched in 2005 and has gone on to be one of the most lucrative lines on the market. According to Business of Fashion, it rakes in annual sales of over $1 billion. The brand, now also offering home goods, started out exclusively at Macy's and has since expanded into other department stores and e-commerce. The former pop star and reality show icon turned business powerhouse and author knows she's subverting expectations with her continued success. "People are shocked that they like my brand," she said to Sunday Morning. Maybe 'cause it's not that expensive? Or maybe because I was a cheesy pop star back in the day? No matter the reason, people are buying, and Simpson, who faced waves of criticism over the years for her fluctuating figure, is proud that inclusivity is a main feature of her brand. Add that to the bad acting this film is famous for, and you get one of many poor Millennium attempts to further the franchise. Number 31. Godzilla's Revenge, 1969. Most viewers would agree this isn't the worst of films, but it's a tedious watch and among the more skippable in the franchise. Reviewers likewise aren't fans of the picture, and some, like Million Monkey Theater, didn't even want to review the film because they thought it was that stinkin' bad. To give some context, Godzilla's Revenge was geared toward small children to enjoy during the Christmas season. As she told InStyle in 2020, "I love the fact that people feel comfortable in my brand and confident to go into a meeting and tackle the day or to go in it with confidence." Gwyneth Paltrow's wellness brand Goop is a trendsetter and a target. Gwyneth Paltrow knows what you might be thinking when you hear the name Goop, and she's not interested. "It's crucial to me that we remain aspirational," she told a Harvard Business School class in 2018, via The New York Times. The franchise had just started its downturn, and they figured, hey, we can still sell this to the kiddos at least. This didn't settle well with adults. The premise is basically a bullied child watching poorly cut together stock fights between Godzilla and other monsters. It sold well as a late 60s kid movie, and it's kind of fun if you can watch it from that perspective, but the movie was a sign of the dark times ahead for the Godzilla franchise. Stock monster fights aren't awful on their own, so no one will blame you for watching this amateurly cut string of them. Number 30. Ebra, Horror of the Deep, 1966. With Ebra, Horror of the Deep at number 30, we're moving away from the more disliked films and getting into mixed reviews territory. Our stuff is beautiful. The ingredients are beautiful. The main drawback of this film is how different it is than the more traditional Godzilla movies. The Big G doesn't show up until late in the movie, and since he's the main reason we tend to watch these pictures, viewers are disappointed by the wait. You can't get that at a lower price point. What started as a newsletter to friends in 2008 has grown into a $250 million wellness empire today. The brand has come a long way from offering restaurant guides and cookbooks. On Goop, a play on Paltrow's initials, you can find everything from high-end apparel and clean beauty products to guides on color astrologia, cleanses, and vibrators. As Page 6 reported in 2019, packages for in-person in Goop health summits have sold for upwards of $5,000. Controversy has often erupted around Goop. The brand has faced legal action for promoting pseudo-scientific claims about some of the products it sold as well as backlash over false advertising. But Paltrow is undeterred. The plot is pretty decent, though. You can keep resisting it, but I'm on the right side of this, she told Town and Country in 2020. The main character loses his brother at sea, finds out from a mystic that he might still be alive, and heads out on a stolen sailboat to find him but instead runs into a nasty, oversized lobster named Ebra. I'm watching the market. Zilla snoozes for a while before finally doing his thing, taking down the crustacean. The effects and quality hadn't gotten any better than the earliest films, but that's one of the things fans like about it. It's the major lack of Godzilla that really drives this movie down. Number 29. Godzilla. Tokyo SOS. I'm watching what's happening. 2003. Godzilla. Tokyo SOS. I think what this wellness movement is really about is listening to yourself, tuning into what interests you, and trying things. The Honest Company does a lot of good for Jessica Alba's wallet. When Jessica Alba couldn't find the natural baby products she was looking for, she saw a clear, and logical, business opportunity. Gets a bit confusing. Co-founded in 2011 with 3 other partners, Alba's The Honest Company debuted with diapers and baby products containing clean, healthy ingredients and components. For Alba, the star of movies like Sin City and Fantastic Four, the company is in many ways an extension of herself. It's just common sense that a brand has or is aligned with the same values that you have as a person, Alba told Fortune in 2021. I'm given this gift of life. How can I try and do good with it, and try and do my part in making the world a better place? That's really why I'm here. The transition from acting to running a multi-billion-dollar business has felt natural, Alba also said. In 2015, The Honest Company, which has expanded to include clean beauty and skincare products, was valued at $1.7 billion, per Vanity Fair. For instance, Mothra shows up. We love Mothra. As Vogue Business noted, a series of lawsuits alleging ingredient mislabeling and faulty products impacted the brand, but it rebounded during the coronavirus pandemic, with a marketing focus on self-care. The company went public in the spring of 2021. On CNBC's Squawk Box in May 2021, Alba said, I feel like this is where we really dig into this next phase of growth. And this is really the beginning for us in a lot of ways. Elizabeth Taylor's beauty empire sparkles like a diamond. She may have been married 8 times and won 2 Academy Awards, but it wasn't until her mid-50s that Hollywood legend Elizabeth Taylor produced one of her most enduring legacies. Everyone loves Mothra. But by this point, Mothra has become way overplayed. In 1987, she launched her first perfume, Passion, followed up in 1991 by the best-selling White Diamonds. In the now iconic black and white TV commercial for White Diamonds, Taylor is the glamorous mystery woman, tossing her diamond earrings into a high-stakes card game. These have always brought me luck, the star, and jewelry connoisseur, improvised. Taylor built a fragrance empire over the years while keeping a focus on philanthropy. A portion of the profits still benefit the cause dearest to her heart, the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. The franchise realized the monster was a hit, so they threw it in everywhere whether it fit or not. 16 scents, including White Diamonds, are on the market today. In 2009, Taylor told the Los Angeles Times that being deeply involved in her brand had been key to its success. Anyway, Mothra comes in and tells everybody they need to get the original Godzilla's bones out of Mechagodzilla and lay them to rest because, well, it's pretty disrespectful to use lizards' bones to raise a new monster. My philosophy for designing perfume is like everything else in my life, ruled by love and passion, she said. So many people place their name on products that aren't intrinsic to their soul. Then, Godzilla shows up. I think that's a little sad. Yes, there has been more than one Godzilla. I have to care about everything I do. A touch of glamour goes a long way too, as she told Kim Kardashian for Harper's Bazaar in 2011. I had no idea that White Diamonds would become a classic when we began, but I am thrilled it has because it means we have really succeeded in giving women a little bit of luxury every day. With her beauty and fashion lines, Rihanna has joined the Billionaires Club. When Rihanna creates something, she puts in the work, 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 work. The one-hit wonder comment came straight out of the gate and that put a fire under my ass. And I just never stopped working, she told the New York Times in 2019. Every time it was about challenging myself. I have to do better, I have to do better. And what's next? What's next? The confusing part is when Mothra helps Mechagodzilla beat up on the G-Man instead of going through with dismantling the mechanical beast.
This movie definitely wasn't as bad as the others, but many, like Cinema or Cinema, think it was lazily pushed out as an attempt for the Millennium Films to keep up with the old rate of production. Number 28. Terror of Mechagodzilla, 1975. Terror of Mechagodzilla was the last Godzilla film in what is largely considered the tail end of a declining franchise. Well, that's before the franchise was resurrected with the return of Godzilla in 1984. I just started branching out into different creative outlets. That's what makes me happy. With Fenty Beauty, the 9-time Grammy winner introduced a foundation palette featuring 40 shades. By this point, Godzilla movies had largely moved away from the kaiju horror genre. The franchise started as into the realm of poorly created films only a child's imagination could really appreciate. According to the Dusty Reel, this film bombed at the box office, but there are fans who really enjoy it. Any love for this movie can be traced to the return of director Ishiro Honda. This guy had a profound knowledge of the Godzilla universe and a finesse in directing that made subtle points amid the action. He didn't save the movie entirely, but he did make it feel more like a Godzilla flick of old. An equally inclusive lingerie line, Savage X Fenty, came next, and her first fragrance launched in the summer of 2021. In its first year, 2018, Fenty Beauty surpassed $500 million in sales. 3 years later, Forbes declared the singer a billionaire and the second wealthiest entertainer, after Oprah Winfrey. Through a partnership with fashion conglomerate LVMH, Rihanna became the first black woman to run a luxury fashion house, also called Fenty. The battles were on the weak side, and the Godzilla suit looked to be on its last legs, but the human storyline was pretty okay. Number 27. Godzilla. Final Wars, 2004. If Rotten Tomatoes scoring system is to be considered a trustworthy source of film analysis, and it's generally considered one of the best out there, then Godzilla. Final Wars is the most mediocre of mediocre Godzilla movies, weighing in at a perfect 50%. In early 2021, WWD reported Rihanna hit the brakes on the Fenty line due to economic effects stemming from the coronavirus pandemic. With the launch of Fenty Skin in 2020, Rihanna is focused on her ever-expanding empire and putting in that work, as she told E!'s Daily Pop that summer about fans already wanting more products. That's why we've already been working on it. You'll have to wait and see, girl. It just gets better and better. Newman's Own, founded by film legend Paul Newman, has donated over $570 million. The embarrassing thing is that my salad dressing is outgrossing my films, Paul Newman once said, via the Westchester and Fairfield County Business Journals. It's one of the Millennium Films, made in a time when creators seemed to be under the impression that they could add whatever fancy schmancy twists to the franchise they desired, as if a few zeros had changed moviegoers' tastes drastically from the years before. As you'd expect, Final Wars was unique, and that's not necessarily a good thing. The film might be hit and miss among fans, but it is fun. A variable trove of classic monsters and aliens descends on the Earth while Godzilla saves the day. For years, the Oscar-winning actor tinkered with a dressing recipe, giving it away to friends and neighbors near his Connecticut home. Classic stylings with modern effects bring the action to life, but the acting was bad enough to pull you away from it all. Not to mention, the franchise's best monsters fought under mind control instead of acting on their own volition. Number 26. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, 2002. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla is another of the meh movies that appeared after the Y2K scare. This movie wasn't that great, but it deserves a bump in status because of one important first among Godzilla films. As Vanity Fair recounted, in the early 1980s, Newman's friend and co-founder of the brand, AE is not coming to a theater near you, points out, this seems to be the first movie in the franchise where the female characters are truly essential to the plot. Hotchner helped him distribute bottles of the oil and vinegar mix at Christmastime. Kaiju aren't just for boys, after all. The film also had a more progressive and diverse cast, which the franchise had been trending toward since the 90s. The Mechagodzilla suit comes into question. Some think the new design is badass, while others, purists, seem to think it should have kept its classic look. Either way you sit, you'll probably agree the plot is on the weird side. The old Godzilla is dead. A new Godzilla has risen to take the former's place, and now the old Godzilla's bones are used to create the Mechagodzilla cyborg. At least it's still an easier storyline to follow than its direct sequel, Godzilla. Tokyo SOS number 25. Godzilla vs. Megalon, 1973, Godzilla vs.
Megalon actually scores lower on official ranking sites, like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, than many of the movies we've already listed. One of those lucky neighbors happened to be a young caterer named Martha Stewart. When it became a hit in their small circle, Newman and Hotchner began bottling and selling the dressing. Their initial success led Newman to a groundbreaking idea. Hotchner told Vanity Fair in 2015, "Paul said, 'We can't be in the business of making money off of it. You're a writer, and I'm an actor, and this isn't what we do. Why, then, are we breaking from those standards?' Well, official rankings have nothing to do with what Godzilla fans enjoy, and most fans tend to like this one better than the Millennium runs. The film is still a versus movie in the downturned Showa era of the Godzilla franchise, but it was better than most at the time, even being marketed toward children as a desperate hope to keep the G-Man suit filled. The movie, though the franchise revenues were continually dwindling, happened to have a modicum of success at the box office, which Toho Kingdom says was mostly due to efficient advertising. But that counts, right? Either way, love it or hate it, this entry actually felt like a Godzilla film, and for that, it's earned its place at number 25. Number 24. Godzilla 2000, in an odd twist of confusing fate. To any real Godzilla fan at least, fans of the 1998 film of which we don't speak were disappointed that Godzilla 2000 wasn't a direct sequel. For the rest of fans, it helped bump Godzilla 2000 to number 24 on this list. Let's give it all away to charity. Since its founding in 1982, Newman's Own has continued its innovative philanthropic model of donating 100% of royalties and profits to charity. There are now dozens of products, including pizza, dog food, coffee, and more than 30 varieties of salad dressings. As noted in Vanity Fair, the organization faced some leadership challenges in the years following Newman's death in 2008, but its giving mission endures. It was a relieving breath of classic air, so to speak. The movie had the stylings of the older films, giving viewers the king of monsters they feared had been lost to the new world of computer-generated imaging. According to the Newman's Own Foundation, more than $570 million has been distributed to charitable causes since the brand's founding. Kate Hudson sees Fabletics as a natural extension of her personal brand. There's a new trend in fitness seemingly every day, but athleisure apparel is here to stay. The value of the U.S. sportswear market was around $105 billion in 2020, according to Statista. Academy Award-nominated actor Kate Hudson tapped into that market early on, and built on her own interest in the wellness space. Nothing beats a rubber suit, and the most classic of all kaiju was back in one. The story, however, was off. For some reason, this movie was disconnected from all previous Godzilla films and raised enough questions about continuity to leave you with a lingering sense of confusion. To cap it off, as IGN points out, the sound could have been done better. When I started rapping about this idea, I got so passionate about it, Hudson told CNBC in 2017. There wasn't a great quality, affordable activewear line. All in all, though, it was a decent movie that blended modern animatronics with a suit we were pleased to see hadn't quite made it to the metaphorical trash. Number 23. Godzilla vs. There were $250 yoga pants. In 2013, Hudson co-founded Fabletics, an athleisure line featuring brightly colored pieces designed to be worn at the gym, at home, or on the run. Mechagodzilla, 1974. Mechagodzilla has become a man-made answer to stopping Godzilla from destroying Tokyo in modern films, but he wasn't always that way. The brand started in e-commerce with a subscription-based model but has since expanded to include retail locations. This is the first appearance of the character within the franchise, and instead of being the human rebuilt hero, Mechagodzilla was a robot sent by aliens to destroy Japan. Since it's the 70s, Godzilla is playing the hero. The movie gave us one of the most iconic Godzilla monsters, and for that, fans can't thank it enough. Per Insider, sales in 2020 totaled approximately $500 million. In the summer of 2021, the company was making moves to go public, with sources telling The Wall Street Journal that the initial valuation was around $5 billion. Hudson sees her move to business as a natural one. At first, it feels like you're actually playing a character, and then you realize that it just becomes, like, this incredibly integrated part of your life, she told Yahoo Finance in 2017. That being said, it certainly wasn't the best movie it could have been. What people are responding to is our brand messaging. The beginning was an absolute crawl. The movie was also gorier than any of the previous ones, which is plus for some and a minus for others. The real kicker here is the music, which, quite frankly, seemed to belong to a different movie entirely. The tunes were so out of place that they pulled audience attention from the action that was already sparse. Maybe playing the movie on mute would give it a better score, but for now, it stays at number 23. Number 22. Godzilla vs. were like let's try to, relax and have some fun, which is kind of my perspective of life. Kanye West's Yeezys rake in serious cash. If you've got a pair of Air Yeezy ones lying around, you might want to get in touch with Sotheby's. Space Godzilla, 1994. When it comes to Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, most fans have one of two opinions. Either it's one of the best Godzilla films they've ever seen, or it's barely worth watching. In the spring of 2021, Reuters reported a prototype of the Kanye West-designed sneakers set a new world record price for a pair of sneakers, when they went for $1.8 million at auction. As CNBC noted, the buyer was a startup that intended to sell shares in the shoe to fans and other interested parties for as low as $15. West started his sneaker line in a collaboration with Nike in 2007 and later moved to a partnership with Adidas. The shoes quickly became big sellers and must-have items, recording sales of approximately $1.7 billion in 2020 alone, according to Forbes. Despite West's public declarations of debt and controversial White House visits, the Yeezy brand has continued to expand over the years. There's been a high-end clothing line with very well-attended fashion exhibitions and, as of the summer of 2021, a highly anticipated collaboration with The Gap. For West, who's won 22 Grammy Awards, the success of Yeezy sneakers comes down to creativity. If you're into Godzilla for all of the monsters kaiju-ness, then you'll really enjoy this movie. Yeezys are the Lamborghini of shoes, the rapper and former husband of Kim Kardashian told Forbes in 2019. You get two Godzillas for the price of one. About the hundreds of Yeezy prototypes developed during the design process, he added, any of these shoes that didn't make it. Space Godzilla seems to be the giant offspring of the original lizard. 20 years from now, you'll look and that shoe will be worth a lot to the numbers guy. He even looks similar, if not more badass, with the massive crystal spikes growing out his back. What's a Picasso sketch worth now? What's a Warhol sketch worth? Mary-Kate Olsen and Ashley Olsen built an empire. The average weekly income for most 20-year-olds is around $640, at least in 2019, according to a report by Payscale. When Ashley Olsen and Mary-Kate Olsen were 20, around the time of the launch of the Row in 2006, Forbes estimated their net worth at $100 million. The Olsen twins became household names thanks to their joint role as precocious tyke Michelle Tanner on the classic 90s sitcom, Full House, and they went on to launch Dual Star, a production company behind a series of tween movies and merchandise that, as Forbes noted, brought in $1 billion a year. Dual Star was only the beginning of their business empire. In addition to the Row, a line with a focus on luxurious basics at very high prices, $200 plus t-shirt, anyone? Ashley and Mary-Kate have added a lesser-priced line to the mix, Elizabeth and James, named after their other two siblings. There's some fun tension between Space Godzilla and Godzilla Jr., too, reminiscent of an abandoned child taking out his parental qualms on the sibling who got all the attention. Outside of what's already mentioned, the movie wasn't very good. According to WWD, the Row struggled during the coronavirus pandemic, but the notoriously press-shy Olsen twins know they can rely on each other during any ups and downs. We've always worked together, so it feels natural to us, Mary-Kate told British Vogue in 2015. They continue on with the psychic theme from the movies before, but it doesn't have much impact on the film, which introduces the silly-looking robot that is Mogera. The special effects weren't on par with other Heisei-era films, either. Number 21. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, 1993. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 scored pretty high with critics, which, in turn, led to an impressive Rotten Tomatoes score of 83%, but not all fans would agree with that assessment. To be able to have a sounding board, and to trust the person who is your partner, is beneficial across all aspects of running a business. Beats by Dr. Dre struck gold at the Olympics and beyond. An expensive iPhone with inexpensive earbuds led Dr. The website's audience ranking is hovering just above 70%, which feels to be in line with the fun factor of this film. Mechagodzilla is built from the remains of Mecha King Ghidorah and is, this time, meant to be humanity's savior. The movie also introduces Godzilla Jr.
This is confusing, of course, since Godzilla had another child in earlier films who's also colloquially referred to as Godzilla Jr., but whose real name is Manila. Manila is the Barney-looking, overly cute creature of the past, while Junior is more like a small, badass Godzilla. The final fight scene of this movie is a little drawn out, but it's an exciting, three-way battle that includes Rodan. The only issue fans really seem to have with the film is in the new Mechagodzilla design that lacks some of the classic elements, such as the finger rockets. Number 20. Godzilla and Mothra. The Battle for Earth, 1992. While Mothra is played out at this point, she doesn't just show up for no reason in Godzilla and Mothra. The Battle for Earth like she does in other films. This moth-based benevolent monster is an integral part of the storyline. Dre to $1 billion idea. Jimmy Iovine, the music mogul behind Interscope Records and co-founder of Beats, told Inc. It's also the film in which she leaves Earth, taking some of the pressure off the overworked creature. That Dre said to him one day, "Man, it's one thing that people steal my music. It's another thing to destroy the feeling of what I've worked on." Iovine and Dre founded Beats by Dr. Dre in 2006 to deliver premium sound experiences through sleekly designed earbuds, headphones, and speakers. Dre and Iovine's access to superstars in the music industry was key to the fast success of the brand, which was acquired by Apple in 2014 for $3.2 billion, per the New York Times. So, Godzilla rampages, a space caterpillar falls from the sky to teach the world a lesson, and Mothra joins in the fight to stop Godzilla, eventually sealing him under the sea. Iovine tested out prototypes on the likes of Pharrell Williams, Gwen Stefani, and will.i.am when they'd pass through his offices. Oh, and when LeBron James happened to request 15 pairs, Iovine told Inc. those pairs turned up on the ears of every member of the 2008 U.S. Olympic basketball team. Suffice to say, they struck gold. Now that's marketing, said Iovine. As the brand has grown more and more successful, Dre sees it as a seamless pairing of form and function. Then, Mothra takes off to tour the universe for some reason or another. The effects in this movie are sublime, and Mothra looks cooler than ever before, with bigger wings and better coloring. There really aren't too many negatives about this movie, but there aren't many highlights, either. It was good, a regular Godzilla film and nothing more. You'll find a copy in most fans' collections with dust unstirred on the cover, but it's not a movie they'll easily get rid of. Number 19. King Kong vs. Godzilla, 1962. The battle between King Kong and Godzilla, in whatever form it may take, is probably the most iconic of all the kaiju fights in the genre. I don't think the brand has overtaken the music, the 7-time Grammy-winning rapper told The Guardian in 2011. I think that they just work together, like, I love watching the two come together. Drew Barrymore's Flower Beauty is one of the fastest-growing cosmetic brands in the U.S. Drew Barrymore brought a lifetime's worth of experience in on-set makeup chairs to the founding of Flower Beauty. We have the warm-blooded primate pitted against the sea-dwelling reptile. It's so popular, in fact, that there was a remake released in 2021. It's also the reason this movie is so high on the list. Unfortunately, King Kong vs. I knew that space so well. I'd been in it my entire life, she told Harper's Bazaar. UK Godzilla serves as a negative mark among hardcore fans and those watching the franchise from the start, not because it wasn't a good movie. This is a classic, after all, but because it's a symbol of when the Godzilla movies switched from being horror-themed to family films that grew increasingly marketed toward the younger generations. In 2019, I'd just come off of my contract with CoverGirl, where I was co-creative director of my own campaign, so I'd had this intense 6-year education that I was aching to apply to something. The child star and host of The Drew Barrymore Show has kept her brand's focus on celebrating individual beauty while also being affordable. If you're planning on watching the modern reboot, you should definitely pop this in the VCR first and witness the original battle between the world's two most beloved monsters. Number 18. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, 2019. If you pop over to Rotten Tomatoes or put the long, hard minutes it takes to scour the internet for critical reviews, you'll notice official critics weren't too pleased with Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Many cite the plot mechanics as tricky and hard to follow. As she said to Refinery 29 in 2020, Flower Beauty was built on accessibility. Barrymore's brand ethos is paying off. It's one of the fastest-growing cosmetic lines in the United States, according to Harper's UK.
With estimated yearly sales of around $50 million, as reported by WWD. Barrymore's flower empire shows no signs of slowing down. Others say the storytelling was worthless and couldn't be saved. Fans definitely disagree with these know-it-alls. Sure, the plot and story are everything the critics claim, but the action and spectacular effects drove audience reviews far into the realm of favorable. There's no man in a rubber suit, so it doesn't offer much in the way of cheesy, classic appeal. It is, however, a pretty dope kaiju movie. It features some of our favorite monsters, such as Mothra, Rodan, and the magnificent three-headed menace, King Ghidorah, painted in more lifelike modern images. For all the negatives with this film's plot, the action and stylings make it a movie Godzilla heads and non-fans can both enjoy. Number 17. Godzilla vs. In addition to flower films, flower eyewear, and Barrymore wines, there's flower home and even flower paint. Gigan, 1972. In an era where the Godzilla franchise had moved to child audiences, it was rare to see an installment that pandered to an adult crowd the way the early, horror-type G films did. "My inspiration never runs dry," she told WWD in 2021. Godzilla vs. I'm going to have on my tombstone, like, Death by Inspo. The inspiration behind that interview? Beautiful by Drew Barrymore, her latest launch of kitchen appliances and cookware. Gigan was pretty much the only Godzilla movie from the 70s adults really got down with. This movie is the shining star of that era. The film has what looks like a fairly predictable plot at first. Some business owners want to capture the world's monsters and put them on display in their theme park. As you'd assume, this doesn't work out, but not in the way you'd think. The business owners are actually space cockroaches trying to off humans and take over Earth by calling on Gigan and King Ghidorah to do their thing. There's a 2-on-2 fight with Godzilla and Anguirus battling the two destroyers. In all, this movie is worth watching if you have the time, but like the others up to this point, it likely won't be your favorite. Number 16. Godzilla vs. Hedorah, 1971. Godzilla vs. Hedorah, 1971, is another one of the 70s-era films that isn't particularly good. If we're talking about watchability, Godzilla vs. Gigan is probably better, but this movie's theme, however poorly executed, pulls it ahead. One of the aspects of the Godzilla franchise that made it a beast over half a century old is the social commentary with which it packs its best films. This started with the original and has been present here and there since. Often, those that break this precedent are simply action for action's sake with no other redeeming qualities. Sure, you can live off that occasionally, but when it's a habit, things grow rough for a fandom. This movie, however, has plenty to say. The plot revolves around the pollution that plagues the planet, making it hospitable for a smog-consuming monster to drop in from space like that unwanted cousin who only needs to sleep on your couch for a couple of days, and never leaves. Godzilla saves the day, and the world is schooled on their less-than-green practices. Number 15. Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, 1965. The title we commonly refer to as Godzilla vs. Monster Zero has gone by 3 different names depending on date and location. So when you see Invasion of Astro Monster or Godzilla vs. Astro Monster, know we're talking about the same movie. Other than that minor confusion, which really doesn't factor into the quality of the feature, it's pretty good. Since the movie is a direct sequel to Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, one of the fan-favorite characters comes back for a second helping. The movie is enjoyable but not quite as good as the first. Either of these Ghidorah movies could have done without the other since they were practically the same story, with only a couple of differences. First, this one takes place on the alien planet X-Second. The plot involves aliens wanting to secretly mind-control the great monsters to destroy Earth, making it slightly more of a man vs. alien movie than a kaiju slugfest. Number 14. Godzilla vs. Biollante, 1989. In order to really appreciate the Heisei era of the Godzilla franchise and take in all the fun these 80s and 90s entries have to offer, it's best to view them as a similar yet separate string of films. If you do, you'll likely enjoy Godzilla vs. Biollante since it's the epitome of this age. Some of Godzilla's cells have been recovered from a volcano, and different groups either want to study them or do something more malicious. Naturally, this causes a fight, and the cells ultimately land in the hands of the Japanese military, which accidentally creates the creature known as Biollante. Well, you can guess who Biollante ends up in a big kaiju battle against. Godzilla vs. Biollante has plot, action, and rubber suits, making it a darn good Godzilla film.
On the other hand, the production, acting, and character development were far from perfect. Number 13. Godzilla vs. Kong, 2021. The first Godzilla movie of the 2020s secures the number 13 slot on the list. Godzilla vs. Kong is a film worth seeing, with cutting-edge effects and CGI. Now, purists might not enjoy the film's phenomenal production quality, but as far as Godzilla vs. Kong being a modern kaiju movie, it's one of the best. The story does fall a little flat when it comes to the character elements and drama. Likewise, Kong seems to change sizes depending on what is happening in the film, but the scale isn't what's important here. The action and the monster rendering overshadow the dramatic flaws. Indeed, the movie has received a good bit of love from both audiences and critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Simply put, if you want to see two of the world's best kaiju duke it out in modern cinematic brilliance, this is the movie you want to watch. Number 12. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, 1991. King Ghidorah makes any Godzilla movie worth watching, even if said films don't make it to the top 10. These movies aren't meant to be cinematic masterpieces, and when it comes to fun, monster why goodness, King Ghidorah's three heads are hard to beat. This flick falls directly into the spirit of the Godzilla franchise. It's supposed to be a delightfully bad B-level movie that entertains the heck out of us, and Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah does not disappoint in this respect. It does, however, have some serious problems when it comes to the weird time travel storyline. So, how'd it make it so far up the list? The special effects are fantastic for this type of film. We don't only get to see this applied to the fight between Godzilla and Ghidorah, but we have the luxury of seeing these effects in a second epic battle between Godzilla and the future resurrected Mecha King Ghidorah. That's two boss fights for the price of one. Get yourself a bowl of popcorn, a couple of friends, and a night in front of the TV with this film, and you won't be disappointed. Number 11. Son of Godzilla, 1967. Some may see this film as problematic within the Godzilla mythos, but it's an important piece of the franchise's history and needs to be included high on the list. Son of Godzilla is the first time the G-Man's offspring is present. It gives an entirely new dimension to the character as well as an annoyingly cute little runt that can't help but get into trouble like a confused toddler. This reptilian child, Manila, locks in the lighthearted humor the series was shifting toward. Many view the inclusion of Manila as an even further push in a childish direction, and honestly, it was, but that doesn't take away the classic value of this movie. With the franchise having been built on the embodiment of all things B-movie, the classics are what it's about. Without Son of Godzilla, there wouldn't have been any other kaiju youngsters in the franchise, making the collection a different beast than the one we know today. Number 10. Destroy All Monsters, 1968. Destroy All Monsters is generally considered the last good Godzilla film before the franchise went into its 70s downturn. The movie is exceedingly fun, if not chaotic, and packs a heavy punch. It has the largest monster brawl out of any Godzilla film, bringing 11 of the classics, including Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, to duke it out. Not all of these monsters get the luxury of full screen time, with some only having short cameos, but Toho provided quite the soiree when it comes to the epic final battle. Unfortunately, viewers have to wade through the movie's slow start to get to the surplus kaiju action, but every ounce of patience you spend tapping your foot and willing yourself not to fast forward is worth the wait. It's the last remnants of the good old days, going out with a bang. To be completely honest, you want to watch this film with subtitles. The English dubbing is pretty awful and hard to follow. Number 9. Godzilla, Mothra and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, 2001. Other than the name taking 6 or 7 breaths to get out in its entirety, it has the longest title of any film in the Godzilla franchise. Godzilla, Mothra and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack was fantastic. It's technically a Millennium-era movie, which might seem shocking since few of them were worth their salt, but this movie doesn't feel like an early 21st century garbage heap like most of the others. We get the man in the big, green rubber suit and everything. Godzilla is back with a vengeance, ready to give Japan a beating over the country's actions in World War II until 3 powerful protector monsters come to the country's aid. These 3 guardians are, of course, Baragon, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. Even without these fan favorites on screen, the movie's spirit is the political commentary of Godzilla's past, and for that, it weighs in at number 9. Number 8. Godzilla vs.
Destoroyah, 1995. As you'd expect, the top 10 is getting highly competitive, and Godzilla vs. Destoroyah is no lightweight. In fact, it's the only Godzilla movie to score a perfect 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a pretty big deal. The movie was the last in the Heisei series, and like we've seen with previous Godzilla series, this one brought the Heisei era to a banging halt. It could have ended the entire franchise like a fireworks show. Godzilla was built up over a decade so he could meet his end in the final moments of this film. That may be a bit of a spoiler, but the movie is more than 20 years old, so hopefully you've seen it already. The finale to this era, according to Birth Movie's Death, was originally going to be Godzilla dueling with the ghost of the first Godzilla, which would have made at least as awesome a movie as Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. Instead, we got Godzilla having a literal nuclear meltdown while looking like he needed the world's largest Tums. That's not to say the film wasn't absolutely fantastic. It was, and you should probably watch it. Number 7. The Return of Godzilla, 1984. The Godzilla franchise had been sitting near death on a 9-year hiatus. The Showa era had put a lot of people off, and if the big guy was going to grace the screen once more, the film would have to be exceptional. And it was. In 1984, the nuclear lizard rose from the sea, resurrected in The Return of Godzilla. This movie brought back not only the world's favorite kaiju but the Mean, Green Machine's roots. The plot made heavy commentary on the Cold War tensions that had been weighing the world down for years leading up to the film. It also returned Godzilla to a mature, less childlike format. Not everyone was as happy as they should have been with G-Man's revitalization, though. The franchise had dwindled and died, and there were some who believed it should have stayed that way, but most Godzilla fans would have a difficult time internalizing this view. The movie pulls an unexpected move by ignoring every Godzilla film before it with the exception of the original. It's a little confusing, but it wipes away the grime produced during the 70s. Number 6. Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, 1964. There's no denying Ghidorah. The three-headed monster has flaws when it comes to production quality, and its stature is more a product of nostalgia than anything else. It's definitely a good movie, and it's such a fan favorite that anyone who denies this film a high place on the list would likely find themselves spit roasted and served up to whichever kaiju is enticed by the smell. Why? Well, no other movie in the franchise introduced King Ghidorah. The three-headed creature is one of the most powerful and awesome monsters in the franchise, not a city destroyer but a world-ending threat, and for that alone, this movie shines. That's not to say the film doesn't have other premium qualities. Ghidorah gave fans a truly monstrous monster, as opposed to the increasingly humanized beasts they'd come to expect, while the characterizations of the other kaiju in this film were a direct contrast. The human character development was likewise plentiful, and the action weaved humor effortlessly throughout the tension. The movie earned its spot at number 6, and it wasn't given lightly. Number 5. Godzilla Raids Again, 1955. Godzilla Raids Again was released the year following the original Godzilla and proved to be a stunning sequel. It had a ferocity in its choreography that other kaiju pictures were lacking, driving the action and helping the franchise cement itself into popular culture, not to mention showing the world what could be done with a scale model city and a rubber lizard suit. This suit, however, wasn't as heavy as the one used in the film before, according to the B-Movie Film Vault, and gave substantially more mobility for the actor to bring Godzilla to life. It helps Anguirus and Godzilla really go to town on each other in that final battle. For all of its high points, Godzilla Raids Again has its faults when it comes to plot that prevent it from reaching higher in the top 10, such as erasing Godzilla's death at the end of the first movie, but its importance to the growth of the franchise brings it at least this far. Number 4. Godzilla 2014. There are going to be plenty of purists who argue against any of the more modern Godzilla flicks making it this high up the list, but entertainment is just as important as historical and intellectual value when it comes to ranking kaiju B-movies, and the 2014 Godzilla was just about as entertaining as they come. Nobody could have expected a Godzilla film with advanced special effects to work. 1998 killed that idea for us. But this movie showed us that one bad apple doesn't ruin a bunch of awesome giant monsters beating the crap out of each other. The way this movie was shot has a lot to do with its quality.
Instead of watching monsters rampage in the distance, the 2014 film gave viewers a point of view that made us feel we were looking up at the carnage. The progression withholds details in just the right amounts, feeding them back in crumbs until we're burdened by the crushing weight of a sci-fi horror. The movie was masterfully done in just about every way. Number 3. Shin Godzilla, 2016. Another modern Godzilla movie. Shin Godzilla is not only one of the best movies about the giant lizard but also a graceful piece of political satire. Godzilla, in essence, is a symbol of cosmic retribution. It's what the character was always intended to be, even if the Heisei era turned him into Earth's protector for a short time. In this movie, Godzilla returns to being that force as he gets rambunctiously out of hand while punishing Japan for the Fukushima disaster and humanity's generally poor use of nuclear power. He's also, pretty upset about being woken up from his decade-long nap. The movie spends a lot of time inside human meetings while they discuss crisis management regarding the angry kaiju, but it doesn't detract at all from the film's power. This movie embodied the soul of Godzilla that seemed to have been lost in the millennium's need for mindless action. Number 2. Mothra vs. Godzilla, 1964. The introduction of the benevolent Mothra in Mothra vs. Godzilla became an anchor point for the franchise, from which they could replay the soon-to-be overused monster. Mothra is the bomb, plain and simple. This movie is generally considered the greatest Godzilla installment from its decade, not to mention the second best in the entire series, and it's not just for bringing the moth-inspired creature to the screen. Comedic overtones mesh with a serious storyline to bring us the underdog fight of a lifetime. Godzilla is a powerhouse bent on raising hell, and Mothra is forced to dig deep and use more strength than she has to save Japan from his destructive rampage. It's a classic story of overcoming evil, but with a two-giant kaiju and all the cutting-edge effects the early 60s could muster. The human storyline isn't quite as good, but the villainous redemption more than makes up for the weaker human protagonists. Number 1. Godzilla, 1954. You're probably not surprised to see the first ever Godzilla movie at the top of the list, and why would you be? Godzilla is the film that sparked more than 65 years of sequels, reboots, and series based on the King of Monsters. What you might not know is that this movie was a powerful piece raised high on its own merit. Movie critic Roger Ebert called this movie the Fahrenheit 9/11 of its time, and for good reason. The film was made after an American hydrogen bomb was tested in Pacific waters, resulting in radiation sickness for Japanese fishermen. The movie was commentary as well as a warning about nuclear technology in the hands of human beings and the destructive force such a power could have if used incorrectly. Sure, the movie is a bit silly, but its concept is brilliant, setting a precedent for the use of other Godzilla storylines to speak out about human folly.